Welcome back to Historia. God. Yeah. It's spooky season.
Week 2.
So we were trying to make some sound effects for that. Anyway. Hi, everyone.
Welcome back. I'm Jamie.
I'm Kylie.
And it is 7 o'clock already.
It is. I just got a perfect week on my watch.
Of what?
Standing every hour. All week.
Yeah. Oh, I don't do that.
I don't think I've ever gotten a perfect week.
Mine yells at me and I'm like, fuck you. No.
I hate when mine's like, get up. And I'm like, no.
Literally. Mine is hitting my step limit. It's hard working a desk job and trying to hit those.
Like, my job is very active. Like, when I serve, it's like, I always walk away with like 18,000 steps. I'm like, Jesus. But when I'm like home teaching, I'm like, I gotta get out. Gotta have a mix. Anyway, we hope you all are enjoying your October so far.
I hope you're watching spooky movies.
Absolutely. I can't wait to be there in that time. We're still in September.
Yes, my goal for this year is to watch all of the Harry Potter movies.
Wasn't that your goal last year?
Yeah.
You never did that.
Nope. God. So that's my goal this year. Maybe I'll watch them at work.
This comes out the day after your wedding.
I'm married, guys.
Isn't that wild? We're recording this on September 11th. 9/11.
Oh.
Maybe next year we'll cover 9/11.
No, that's way too big.
Yeah, it is. It's really big.
Way too big. And there's so much conspiracy behind it that it's going to get way too political.
That would be very intense. But
I mean, maybe.
If that's what you want, let us know.
Just listen to it on a different podcast because it's way too political and I'm just not interested in that.
We could always just tell the facts. You don't have to tell the... there's
but like,
a lot of theories.
So it's like,
that's
if
true.
You have to tell the story, you have to tell the theories, and you have to tell all of this other stuff. And it's just, I don't find that entertaining. Like, it is a sad day and I don't want to get into the politics. That's very true. Of it.
I feel that. Yeah, it is very, and I feel like it's too soon to like just like talk about it like in that to that extreme. I know, but it's still like it still affects people so hard to this day. Like, when I went to the museum, everyone was still like crushed by it, and I'm like, it's just like solid.
Even James was saying that it's just dead quiet.
Yeah,
when he went, he was just like,
it was quiet.
No one says a word.
Yeah, everyone's just kind of thinking, and like they don't let you take pictures in certain areas. Yeah. It was a really cool museum. Anyway, needless to say, we won't be covering 9/11 for those reasons. It's just too big of a thing.
Yeah, no.
So
I'm gonna find more lighthearted things.
All I was trying to say is that it's September 11th when we're recording this. So,
well, happy October.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's jump into today's episode.
Yes. So, I got quite the story for us today.
Oh.
I have never heard of this person before until today.
Oh, a person.
Yeah. And it's based off here in Colorado.
Oh, God.
Mm-hmm. It is different from what we normally discuss. As we have noted before on this podcast, we do not really cover murders or serial killers because that is different from what we do. We are not a true crime podcast.
Right. It comes up once in a while, but it's not our main focus.
Yeah. But I think this is definitely historical to the point because it is old. And like, it's still like kind of questionable, like, but it is true crime in a sense, but I thought it was very fitting for spooky and kind of weird and creepy and kind of disgusting for Halloween.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I feel like the prison one you did, I feel like that was a good segue into spooky season.
I think so too, because that one is just like, we're definitely covering a lot of United States, so I think
that's
the
true.
Next couple, I might kind of branch out.
Yeah.
Other places, but
we'll get out of the US for a bit.
Yeah, but this was like on a list of, again, like last week I was saying, I was like looking up stuff that happened on Halloween and it was just like more sad stuff than it was like creepy. So I was like, okay, what is like some really weird, like creepy stuff? And I ran up on this guy and I was like, what the fuck? It's just the story behind him, but also just the tea I will share of how impactful this man has been, and to an extent is weird.
Okay, well, I'm excited to hear about this random guy.
Yes. So, today we are going to be covering the Colorado cannibal, Alfred Packer.
I heard of this guy. Okay.
Have you?
I have.
I've never heard of him.
I think I don't know how I came across him, but I've definitely heard his name. I don't know much about him.
Yeah, I had no idea who this guy was. But he was actually pretty popular in Boulder, Colorado.
Of course, it's Boulder.
Yeah, so I will get into that reason a little bit further on. He is not like Jeffrey Dahmer, as far as we know. He did not do it for the joy and the pleasure of it. Packer was more like the Donner Party situation, if you've ever heard of that. I would like to cover them at some point because that is interesting.
Yeah.
He primarily did it for survival, for as far as we know. Again, it's like word against word. How he said he did it and the evidence from the archaeological dig is still debated. So from what they found on the archaeological dig, from the stories that he shares, is like they don't match, as I'll share like later on. So it's just like, who was right? But one thing that we know for sure is Alfred Packer ate parts of 5 people.
Yes. Delicious. Not actually, guys.
Now let's get on to the story of Alfred. But before we do, I want to share where I got today's information. I really had to dig to get like really, really good information on this guy because like when I just like looked him up, it was like chronological, but it was like really sporadic. And I was like, I want a full like in depth, especially the archaeological like dig that they did, the anthropology side of it and stuff like that. I wanted to get into it. And I actually found some pretty good information. So I found some in the Colorado archives about like the timeline of Alfred, but my big help for this week was a YouTube lecture on him and the archaeological side of it presented by Dr. Erin Baxter. I believe she is a historian for the Denver Museum.
Oh,
Center,
cool.
like that area.
Okay.
Like, and she worked, I believe she worked at Boulder for a bit, helping with the archaeological dig. And
oh, wow. So
like,
she was close.
Behind that. Yeah, like she's pretty connected to Alfred. But her lecture is actually pretty fun. And she always, she makes a lot of just like cannibal remarks. And they're like jokes. And she's just like, really awkward. She's like, okay, so I highly recommend that you watch it.
I want to watch that.
Yeah, it's about like an hour long or less than that because she then answers questions that students have for her. So even if you have questions, maybe she answers them like
That's
towards
super
the
cool.
end. But the lecture, when you go into YouTube, is The Curious Case of Colorado Cannibal, Alfred Packer.
I will be watching that later. Thank you.
Yeah, she's great. I love her. So let's get on to this wild man. There's not much that we have on Alfred in his younger years as this event takes place in the 1800s. So information can be hard to come by, especially for average men at one point like Alfred. So, I mean, I'm sure if you dig deep enough in like records and archives and stuff, you can get like the full ass story. But for like the average Joe, there isn't just like, he did this when he was like 2 years old. Like, why did he do this? Like, here's the psychology behind him and like his childhood. Like, there's nothing like that. We don't know. From what we do know, Alfred was born in 1842 in Allegheny County, Pennsylvania. So here we are back in Pennsylvania.
Full circle.
We didn't even plan this, guys.
What year is he born?
1842.
Okay, so it's kind of in the middle of my story.
Pennsylvania is crazy.
Yep.
So he would grow up to kind of travel around, doing like different jobs. He didn't really, and this really impacts him like later on in life, is that he kind of jumped from different jobs. But one that would be like a life-changing one was when he was a shoemaker in Minnesota. But his profession would change when the Civil War broke out. So he was like in his mid-20s at this point. And if you're not from the U.S. and you're like, what the fuck is the Civil War? Well, the Civil War in the United States is pretty much was a division, and we've talked about this last week too with the Civil War. It's the division of the Union, the Confederacy. Pretty much, it wasn't all about slavery, because the North did have slavery.
Yeah.
But it was like how they wanted the country to be run. And the Union was like, they were pretty much separated. It was like brother against brother, literally brother against brother. And then it was like just family against each other. It was a division of a country, and it would last for 4 years, 5 years.
Something like that.
Yeah. And everyone was a part of it. And Alfred really wanted to join. Like, he wanted to be a part of it. Like, signing up was pretty much like it was an expectation. If you were a young man, you were pretty much like had that expectation. Like, you have to be in this war. Like, we need you in this war. Like, if you were like 20 years old, 18 years old, like in your 20s and stuff, you're going to war. You're going to war. And if you're like, no, I don't want to, then you were frowned upon heavily.
Right.
So Alfred, though, he was roughly 22 years old at this point, and he wanted to go in. Like, he was ready. He was like, I want to be a Union soldier. I don't want to do all these other jobs. I think I would be great for the role. He would first enlist into the U.S. Infantry in Company F in April of 1862. Sorry. But he would not last very long. Almost immediately, Alfred would be discharged due to his medical condition of epilepsy. So he had a lot of seizures during the days, and no commander, no high general wants to have a soldier who is going to like just drop down in the middle of a fight and just have seizures. And they're like, you need to focus on your health.
Had to have people in good health.
They wanted them, and yes.
Makes sense.
Exactly. This removal of being discharged did not discourage him. Alfred would then try to join the Iowa Regiment, but would be discharged once again due to his condition. So they found out. They were like, no, honey, you can't do this. And he was just like, fuck, fine. But so a little fun fact, though, I want to add about Alfred was that he was illiterate well up into adulthood. He could not read. He could not write. But I think in his military, like the short time that he was in the military, he did start to learn how to read and write. But he in the military, he would go on to have get a tattoo. And as a joke of his illiteracy, like growing up, he got his name tattooed, but had it spelled wrong. So instead of Alfred, he spelled it Alferd.
What?
So that's why you see on like, sometimes you'll see like on lectures or on like restaurants, it's not Alfred, it's Alferd. Because that's how he spelled it.
Oh, wait, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And he was just joking around with the boys.
It's like the no regrets
tattoo. That's exactly what it is. And he pretty much was like, yeah, I can't read or write.
He's just walking around.
Pretty much. So
Alferd, yeah. Oh my God. Too good.
So it's like, yeah, you'll see both when you're like searching him. It'll be like Alfred Packer, Alferd Packer.
I love that they call him Alfred. That's so funny.
Yeah. And honestly, I think that's how he went on for like the rest of his life.
He's like, I guess that's my name now. Okay. I bet the tattoo artist, sorry, I'm just thinking about the tattoo artist was like, this is probably not his name, but okay.
Well, he was probably drunk as hell with his buddies, just being like, hey, let's get this
How do you spell your name? And he's like,
probably. So after coming to the conclusion that he was not going to make it in the military for multiple reasons, Alfred decided that his next adventure would be gold mining.
Oh, classic.
Because it was right prime during the gold rush everywhere on the West Coast.
Going from the Civil War to gold rush.
Literally. It's crazy.
Typical.
Yep. So leaving his life on the East Coast, Alfred would then make his way to the West. So he ended up in Tennessee for where that like Iowa regiment was, and he started making his way towards the West Coast. He was like boop 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 boop, doing that Westward expansion.
Fun stuff.
Yep. Alfred would find himself working odd jobs to get by. This was working in the mines, doing farm work, and eventually doing guide jobs. Now, guiding was not a strong skill of his. He was terrible at it. Why? Well, he got himself lost very periodically. And the whole reason for the event that would lead to him to eat his travelers.
Oh, God.
Yeah, this guy was not...
He's not very street smart or book smart.
He's not either. At this point, he was not education.
He's not education.
But yeah, but for the most main reason for like guiding was to take them to like the mining towns.
Wait, so he's guiding people, but he's getting lost?
Yeah.
They're probably all just like, where are we going, Alfred? Alfred.
That's exactly.
Dude. Alfred, where are you taking us?
This guy is a hot mess.
Oh my God, he's like, shit. Did we turn here? No. Oh, poor guy. I kind of feel bad for him right now.
I think during this time he had a wife and kids, but I never saw that in like the research. I think he did though.
Probably lost him.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh God.
It was 1873 that Packer would find himself as a guide for the Utah and Colorado wilderness. He was given a job in November in Bingham Canyon, Utah, that he was to lead 21 men to gold fortunes near Breckenridge, Colorado. I love Breckenridge. I always forget that it was a mining town.
I know.
You see some old mining towns here that are like mountain towns, but were mining towns that are like super, super like heavy advertising that it was an old mining town, but Breckenridge is like, fuck that, we're ski town now.
We've moved on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I still want to go for Oktoberfest.
Oh yeah.
One of these years I'll get there. But it's not in October.
No, that still doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't get it. The southwestern area of Colorado was booming with gold and silver. So many men were seeking to get their hands on the potential fortune. Now, he was not an official guide for this group. He kind of just like tagged along and said that he was an experienced guide for the area.
Oh my God. You can do that?
Yeah, at that time.
Jeez.
Like now you have to have like all this certification and like BS and stuff. And at the time he was just like, I know the area.
Except he doesn't.
Exactly.
Oh God, this is going to end badly.
Yeah, and this was like in November too. So it's like Jesus. This dude doesn't know anything about Colorado wilderness because he's been there for like a year. Dude's a hot mess. Those traveling were still skeptical of Packer. So like the 21 people that were with him were like, dude, I don't think you actually know what you're doing. And he was like, no. It's fine. Let's go. I will take you to Breckenridge. And they're like, I don't think so. No, it would take them about 3 months to get to the mines. So they started traveling from Utah and then they started going like boop, 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 down into Colorado. It was right around late January that the group would go on to meet the Ute tribe chief, Ouray. Also a town, which I did not know Ouray is also the Switzerland of Colorado.
What?
Yeah, now I have to go there.
Cool.
It's been a hot minute. It was instructed by leader Ouray that the men should not continue forward as the winter months are to hit the Rockies hard. So they were in the Rocky Mountains right now. And that it would be deadly to continue forward. Or it's the San Juan Mountains, one of the two. I think it was the San Juan because they didn't get very far. Ouray would even offer them to stay until the weather would clear for the winter season. So this tribe leader, Ouray, was just like, hey, you can stay here. Like, it's going to be super dangerous, which is quite ballsy for a tribe chief.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I honestly, I would be like, hell yeah, teach me your ways.
Right.
But no, Packer was like, I gotta go there. I need to get some money. I don't want to go without money anymore. So this would lead the men to separate into two groups. So most of the guys actually stayed behind because they're like, fuck that. I don't want to deal with that crap weather. Like, because they knew what the Colorado mountains were like, what the Rockies were like. I don't think Packer understood. how bad it was. Packer would join 5 others in wanting to push forward into the harsh, rocky San Juan Mountains. They did not believe in harsh winters that would become whatever. Oh my God, English is hard.
It is.
So they were like, no, this is fine. It's not going to be that bad. Little did they know that this was going to be one of the worst winters.
Oh, Jesus. Of course.
So screwed over. The 5 that would join Packer were Frank Miller, Shannon Bell, James Humphrey, George Noon, and Israel Swan. When I was like doing my research on that, there's like nothing about these 5 men. It's all about Alfred Packer. And I was like, I'm guessing they were kind of the average Joes that didn't have like any backstories and stuff. And I want
to know why they're there.
Exactly. Well, they wanted gold.
Oh, that's true.
Silver.
What led them to that? I don't know.
That's why they wanted to go to Breckenridge. But yeah, like they were all varied in ages too. So it went from like 20, and I believe Swan was the oldest.
Wow.
Like it's around 60. So he was pretty old. Now, there's hardly even a photograph. Like, the photographs that I did see, I don't even know if they were real.
Oh.
So, but on the lecture, she showed some, so I'm assuming that they're real. But these men were determined to get to Breckenridge and were unprepared for the unbearable winter that was to come. Evidently, Packer was ready to go. He was like, let's go. 5 of you coming with me? Okay, we got this. The other, like, I don't know, like 15 people were like, good luck. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be me too.
Yeah, and even Yuri was like, are you sure you don't want to stay behind? Packer was like, nah, I can guide them. I'm an experienced guide.
Oh, God, no, you're not. No, you're not. Red flag, red flag.
Yeah. So the first problem that Packer and his men would come to face is the terrible weather. It should have been known that because winter was coming, that the winter would be harsh. But little did they know that this particular winter would be worse than normal.
Dang.
It's the Rockies. It's Colorado. It's going to be bad. Like, you should expect the worst.
It's always snowy in the mountains.
Even when they left in late February from the group, they started off walking in very deep snow.
February is the worst time of year.
Exactly.
If you live here, you know.
Exactly. We don't get snow until like February.
Yeah.
And it hits hard.
Yeah, till like May, sometimes June.
So this was not a good sign. The snow was becoming so rapid and piling in the mountains that Packer and the men who traveled with him had to keep to the mountaintops. So they couldn't actually go, like they had to walk on the tops. They couldn't actually go in because the snow was too deep.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was not looking good. The next problem that would quickly come into their encampment was their food consumption and supply. Gathering water was not really a problem because there was snow literally everywhere. But it was the food that they lacked, which is the biggest problem.
Oh, yeah.
You should always pack for more than what you think because you don't know how much you're going to eat. Only having enough food for 6 days.
Oh, God.
For each of them. They would only come to last them about 3 days.
Oh, God.
Because men love to eat. The food that they had mostly consisted of hardtack. If you don't know what hardtack is, this cracker-like substance was commonly used during this era as a ration food. Very common during the Civil War, and this is like in the late 1870s, so a lot of recovery. You see the reconstruction of the U.S. coming, and this was an easy ration food to make. So, and it's light to travel. Now, this food consisted of flour, water, and salt. Very simple. So, soldiers mostly ate this food, and as he was a prior soldier, kind of, he was like, okay, we're going to be fine. I know how to ration food. No, he did not.
He doesn't know anything. He's stupid. He's so dumb.
See, and they only planned to stay in the mountains for a few days to head towards Breckenridge.
You got to be overly prepared to go in the mountains.
Yeah. And eventually, like when they were running out of food, they had to resort to boiling their moccasin shoes and eating them.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, because they were made of rawhide. So.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. When they started to run lower on food, they started to look for wildlife that they could consume. Now, the problem in this situation is they were isolated in the wilderness of the Rocky Mountains, and animals are pretty scarce in these areas.
Yeah.
So the snow also prevented this. So the animals are going to stay closer to the towns or to like not super far in the mountains.
So are they walking around barefoot now that they ate their shoes, or?
I'm wondering if they had different shoes, but that could, yes.
Oh my God. They could, like, kept the soles on them and have like half of a shoe.
Pretty much.
Oh
like
my
that's,
God.
They probably used like twigs from trees to use what they could.
Wow.
But yeah, so always bring extra pair of shoes as well.
Yeah.
And socks, which are very rare to come by during this time though.
Right.
So when this became a problem, Packer claims that he even resorted to eating petals on blossom trees that they passed. And it was like, because he eventually said that he ate like rosebuds. And I'm like, but it's the winter.
Yeah, how the hell are you finding rosebuds?
But I guess like it is February and he doesn't come back till May. So I guess that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah,
but
towards the end.
Yeah, but we know this isn't all true.
May? Holy shit.
Yeah.
They only had food for 3 days?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, it's supposed to be 6, but
yeah,
Alfred is stupid. Call him Alfred. He put that on himself.
The next problem that Packer and his followers faced was the biggest problem of all that would lead them to the fatal event. During their trek, Packer made a decision to go in the wrong direction. Great guide. So,
saw that coming.
Instead of heading towards Gunnison, that would lead them to where they needed to go, Packer would send them downwards towards Lake City, Colorado. So instead of literally just going straight, he went down.
Who trusts this guy?
Nobody except these 6.
But he was like, don't worry, I got this. I know where we are.
So it was around, so when they passed into Lake City, it was about March. And this was around the time frame that the violence would start to unfold.
Oh, Lord Jesus.
So by March, Packer and his men would be completely out of their food and anything they could use as food. So it was literally like a month and a half. That. And of course, they didn't think that like, oh, we can survive 3 weeks off of like not eating. But no, like they were just like, I'm so hungry. I need to eat now. So the men were hungry and Packer was starting to grow hungrier and hungrier by the day. That is when the horror unfolded.
Oh, no.
Now let's fast forward.
Oh, no.
It was May when Packer would wander into Los Pinos Indian Agency, south of Gunnison. It was evident immediately that something was wrong. Packer was different than he should have been. He's been gone since February. And he should have only been gone for a few days. A man in the mountain for months without proper supplies should have been beyond weak, hell, even dead.
He wasn't.
But Packer, well, he was just as fit as when he left. Maybe even more.
I would cry.
When asked about his unusual lack of not being skin and bones, Packer resorted to saying that he survived off rabbits and rosebuds. Nobody believed this. They were like, I don't think so. In the mountains? The next question came on to where the men were that tagged along. Packer responded that the men were lost and had been separated from him during their travels.
Oh my God.
So this was his first story. This again was questioned by the locals.
How did he find his way back, by the way?
He just wandered.
Until he got there?
Yeah. Literally, he probably had no idea where he was until he saw a sign and was like,
he finally was like,
great.
Like after month 2, he's like, maybe I should turn around.
Well, he didn't even make it to Breckenridge. Like he literally got into Gunnison, or like not even Gunnison.
Oh my God. These poor people. Jesus.
It became a breaking point when the people asked about his possessions that he held.
Oh no.
Walking into Los Pinos, Packer carried with him a butcher knife, a rifle, and a coffee can filled with coal.
Oh, God.
Not only did he walk with these items, the knife he had belonged to Humphreys, one of the men.
James Humphrey.
Most of the men during the trek carried a weapon in order to protect themselves. Not all of them did, but most of them did. Packer carried his Winchester rifle, Humphreys his butcher knife, Bell his pistol, and Swan his hatchet. Now, the hatchet would become quite popular in this story, believe it or not. Along with the knife, Packer also had some money that he didn't have before.
That's not sketch.
Yeah. He started playing poker. He bought a $70 horse. Money that there was no way he should have had because this man was broke as hell.
Right.
He wasn't doing so hot in the guiding business.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, he can't even guide.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't even know his name.
When questioned about his newcome wealth, Packer then admitted that the men he traveled with had starved in the San Juan mountains and he took what he had from them. So another story.
Because his first one, he just said they got lost, right?
Yeah, that he got separated from them, that they left
There's
him.
no way you would have gotten separated from them.
No.
Like, who would just, like, be like, okay, bye? I mean, it makes sense if they, like, didn't believe where he was going, but, like,
yeah.
Or were trying to get away, but no. Still, no, doesn't check out.
Mm-mm. Packer was quickly arrested and brought into questioning.
Good.
They're like, this doesn't sound right. There's something fishy going on here. So the sheriff came in and was like, boy, we need to do some talking. And Alfred was like, okay. Like, he was always so confident with his stories and how everything happened. Like, he said it with ease. Like, he didn't have any hesitation.
Wow.
About it. When first arrested, he was asked about what happened. Packer's first story was probably the most that would be convincing if he kept to it. He would not keep.
He forgot.
Literally, and it would be years apart that he would have to like retell the story, and of course it changes.
Yeah,
to make him look better. So Packer first admitted that while he was freezing, like especially his feet because he didn't have shoes anymore, that the men left him behind and that he had no idea where his team was. This still was held questionable as he had one of their weapons and was not freezing as and unfit as he were to be left alone.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't adding up. What was happening?
Oh, shit.
What happened?
Oh, God, what could have gone wrong?
It was months later that an intrigued reporter, of all things, would follow the trail that Packer claimed the bodies would be scattered about or that he last saw them.
Yeah.
But that was not the case. Instead, the reporters found the bodies and that they were laid around a fire pit and they were in sleeping bags with their flesh missing.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so imagine stumbling upon this like 4 months later and they're like,
just left them all in sleeping
oh,
bags.
shit. Like, this doesn't look great. And they can even tell, like, on the archaeological, like the pictures and stuff that they did of what was animal and what was, like, cut.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, like, it has gotten to that, like, well detailed that they did. Like, so they could tell if, like, an animal was the one that peeled, like, or, like, removed it. And I think one of them had, like, animal indentations, but there wasn't much because, like, most of the flesh had already been removed.
Right. I'm sure animals were, like, dug in there a little bit, but then they were, like...
Yeah,
but... It depends how tightly they were in the sleeping bag as well.
And, like, the marking of, like, the slashes and stuff, they can tell that was from human-made.
That makes sense,
Man-made. Yeah.
Because you would see, like, either a bite mark from an animal or, like, a... claw.
They're so smart. Like, anthropologists and archaeologists are so smart when it comes to that. Like, I could never be on that level.
Yeah, no. They're
so amazing. Mm-hmm. So this was a first sign of Packer's lies. And when the reporter returned with this new information, with this news, Packer knew he had to escape. In the middle of the night, Packer would make the escape from the Saguchi jail when handed a key to the cell. It was never, like, really, I don't know who did it, but he was handed a key and they're like, get out of here. And he was like, see ya. Packer would then go on the run for 9 years.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
During these 9 years, Packer would become quite the legend. It spread like wildfire that he was the one who murdered the men with him and consumed their flesh.
So he was known as like the Colorado
Cannibal. Like, yeah. So it was like becoming big. They're like, oh my God, he actually ate them, because a reporter was like, there is no flesh on them. Like, he's
Holy
super
shit.
fit. Like, they started making all of like what journalists do best is that they started making like rumors and stuff like that.
Right.
So he became so popular that he was even blamed for other people's murders around the country.
Oh my God.
So if like someone got like murdered, they're like, oh my God, it was Alfred Packer, the cannibal, the Colorado cannibal. So
wow.
This guy, he was nowhere near. He would go on for the next 9 years coasting around. He would just be like trying to hide. He has
no idea where he's going.
Exactly.
He's just like going in a circle. Ah!
He would live in Arizona, parts of Colorado still, which I'm like, how did you not get caught there?
He changed his name?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then he would live in Montana before he finally settled in Fetterman, Wyoming. While on the run, Packer would go under the name John Schwartz.
Oh, okay.
So it was how he got caught, though, is just the funniest thing. So while he was in a saloon in Fetterman, Wyoming, someone recognized his laugh and then looked at him and was like, that's Alfred Packer.
Wait, where's his tattoo?
I don't know. It never said.
That'd be funny if they
probably
saw
like
his
on his
tattoo.
forehead. No.
Alferd. It's like,
probably,
my name is John.
Well, he probably had it like on his arm right here.
Yeah.
Just so he could see it. Okay, that's my name.
He's like, wait, hold on. What's my name?
It's still not spelled right.
But they recognize his laugh? Yeah, this guy knew him or just...
Yeah, I'm sure this person probably knew him. Like, either maybe he was a guy. It didn't specify. Maybe he was on the trek with him.
Oh my God.
Was part of his guides at some point or knew him.
Maybe he was one of the people that got a tattoo.
I'm sure it was like someone that he knew in Colorado or Utah because it's a small world at that point. So yeah, someone recognized his laugh and went to the police and was like, hey, I think that cannibal guy is here. And the police were like, oh shit, really? And so
it's been 9 years.
Yes, it's been 9 years. So they arrested him.
How did he do that without like him knowing that he was telling on him?
I mean, he probably didn't approach him. He probably was just like,
was there just a cop there?
Well, no, because if you think about these towns, they're not very big.
That's true. You could just like go down the street to the sheriff's.
He probably just ran out and just started speeding down the like dirt road to be like, Sheriff, I got some news.
And the sheriff's like, oh, I've been waiting for something to happen.
Literally.
Yeah.
So Alfred Packer was arrested.
Damn.
After being arrested, Packer would be transferred back down to Colorado that's where his crime was committed, to begin his trial. So Packer claimed that while being questioned that he had done that this memory of it and everything has done a toll on him, and he wanted to clear his conscience after the 9 years of being on the run. He wanted to share the story of what really happened. And everybody was like, bruh, we know you ate these people. There was no way you were going to be looking that good eating rabbits and rosebuds.
Yeah, there were probably barely any rosebuds, by the way.
So the story that he would tell then was different from the original one. This time, after his capture, he finally admitted the gruesome act he did to the men that traveled alongside him. So now I think it was just kind of like questioned that, oh, he did it, but now he was actually confirming it. So it was like a bunch of legend and stuff, and they were like, oh shit, it's real. So Packer would come out and say that Swan froze first and that all the men were desperate for food and made the decision to eat Swan. Oh. Now, after walking a bit, Humphreys would then die and they would eat him. This would continue until it was just Packer. So all of the guys would die and they all had to like survive on their own. But the investigator, like the police, was like, no, this is problematic because due to the reporter going out to the site.
They were on the same location.
Yeah. He was told that they could not be true as the men were all around each other. So...
yeah, because if it was down the path, they would be scattered.
Yeah, but they weren't.
This guy's dumb.
Yeah, so but I don't think he really knew that, like, the reporter said something. I think the reporter put, hey, these, all of these men are dead. the Packer, like, after 9 years, he probably doesn't remember that.
Right.
So.
Damn.
Yeah, and so they were like, no, you're going to have to tell the truth. And by this time, the trial was now starting. So, here we go. Now, during the trial, Packer was quite confident about his responses and that he was innocent from any murderous crime.
He's a little too confident.
Yes. He claimed that what he did was only for survival and self-defense.
Jesus.
And they're like, what do you mean by self-defense?
Yeah.
His next story would come on. So, self-defense was a new claim that Packer came to state during his long hours on the defense. He actually defended himself. Yeah. And this trial would go on for hours.
Oh my God.
Like a whole bunch of nonsense. And I believe even in the archives, like Colorado archives and stuff, you can actually look up the transcripts from that trial.
Oh, that would be cool.
Like, if I had a lot more time on my hands and I was doing like a full ass podcast about him, you better believe I would have been looking at those transcripts. But with trial transcripts, it probably would have taken me at least a couple weeks or like a week with my time crunch to look at all of these. Like, I'm sorry, guys, but that would be a lot. I don't have a lot of time on my hands. Like, it took me a couple days just to get this.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make sure that it was good enough. But with the transcripts and stuff, this probably would have been a good 2-parter.
Yeah. Well, hey, go find that on your own if you want.
Yeah. And that's what we're here to do, because we want to keep giving you new history lessons, like shortcomings. But definitely recommend that you guys go check it out for yourself.
Yeah. There's always more to the story.
Exactly. And this one is the trial. So now, with the self-defense claim, he would go to claim that Bell had killed everyone. So Shannon Bell had killed everyone while Packer was out looking for food. And when he returned, he came to find the gruesome sight. Packer then claimed to approach Bell on what he had done. Like, dude, what happened? Like, why did you kill all these people? And then Bell turned on him and tried to attack Packer. Packer claims that he would kill Bell out of self-defense. After killing Bell, Packer claimed that he was so hungry because he was trying to go out looking for food that there was no food around to eat, and he had to do the ultimate decision on eating the men. It was the only way that he could survive. So he had to chop all of these men up, and not chop them up, but like remove their flesh with like the knife to be able to eat, to have that storage. And I mean, it was cold enough that he could keep the meat fresh.
Right.
So, and he did have that coffee can with coals in it. So that's probably what he was doing. I wonder if he had any meat on him left.
That's what I'm curious too.
No one ever checked that. So, this made the courtroom shocked, because they thought it was just rumors, and it was just like, oh, whatever. Is it?
Yeah, that was the first
true?
time he admitted to eating someone.
Yep. And so the whole courtroom just gasped. They were like, what? You're kidding, right? And he's like, it was out of survival. So immediately they were like, okay, you're not getting out of jail. Like, this is a crime. You killed somebody. You ate their flesh. This is unholy. Like, it was on the line that it was even told by the judge that Packer should have starved before even thinking of eating his own. And he would immediately be sentenced to death and sent to the Canyon City prison.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is, I think it was probably the old one, because I think the new one was built in like the early or like the mid 90s, maybe 80s. But yeah, the old one, you can actually tour it, or parts of it, because some of it is actually still being used for like making like license plates and stuff for Colorado. But I definitely want to do a tour, because I'm sure they will mention him.
Oh, yeah.
So now I'm kind of like intrigued to see like what they say about him and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he was sent to prison in Canyon City, which you do not want to be sentenced to, because that's where it's the one that they have now is a maximum prison, and the Unabomber is there, and then the Aurora shooter.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's some other bad men, bad women that are located there.
I've driven past that, and my dad was talking about it, and I was like, oh my God.
I know. James and I would like to live in that area. Because he loves Salida, and I'm like, I love Canyon City because I love that smaller town atmosphere. It's not too far from home either.
Yeah, that would be a good spot.
So it's just like, it's really deserty though.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Plus, you got to find a job first.
Work at a shop.
Back to the story. Now, while on death row, a law would then eventually pass in Colorado that the death penalty would no longer be on the table for him, and instead Packer would be sentenced to life in prison. So something changed. I don't know if it was the definitive law, but just like he ended up getting life in prison instead of death. Because especially with them fighting, him fighting that like, hey, I did this in self-defense. I did this for survival, like what's wrong with that? And it started to get questioned about like what is right and wrong, of what is necessary in order to survive. But like at the time when the judge was like, you ate a person, no, you're dying, you should have died on that mountain.
Plus, when your story changes so much, it was not out of self-defense.
Yeah, so it's kind of all over the place. Now you would think this would be the end of Alfred Packer, but it's not. Actually.
Oh, God.
Well, in prison, Packer would go on to meet the Denver Post reporter, Polly Ply.
Oh, Jesus.
Who was intrigued to know more about Packer's story. She was like, what happened? I want to know more. How did you get to this point? She wanted to know everything. Again, another version of his story would be told. So, instead of admitting that he ate the men, Packer went on to share that Bell had killed everyone in the camp, and Packer would go on to try to eat the men for survival, but he just could not. Instead, he claimed that he would live on rose bushes. So, that is... So he was like, no, I totally did not, because I don't think he wanted to admit anymore that he actually ate the men, because that would look worse in his eye. So it was the middle of winter, so it doesn't make any sense on how he could, but Polly believed him.
Oh my God.
She and any of his supporters would spend their time printing stories of his innocence, of how like, this is not right. He did not actually eat the men. Bell just killed everybody, killed him in self-defense. Like, he didn't eat the bodies because he just couldn't. It was so wrong. He was like, he couldn't do that. So he just survived off of rosebuds.
That doesn't explain anything with the skin missing.
Yeah. So something did happen. So by 1901, Packer had gotten enough support and would be released.
Holy shit.
On parole.
What?
Yeah, he would be released on parole. After being released, he would then be offered to become the guard for the Denver Post.
What?
There is actually a photograph of him, like with the Denver Post, and he's there.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What the hell?
He would make this his profession until his death in 1907. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So he just lived out his days as a guard for the Denver Post.
Here's the thing. You can't admit to eating somebody and then later say you didn't do that.
Yeah.
That's something that's like a little crazy.
Exactly.
Oh my.
So Packer's memory would continue to live on, especially for CU Boulder. In the late 1980s, it was intrigued by a professor of law, James Starrs, who was at a conference in Colorado and learned about Packer's story. So not much was going on, and he was like, well, I'm a little bored. And this Packer guy has like really intrigued me. I want to know more about this, about the bodies of this. Because he was not only a professor of law, but also forensics. So if you know about forensics, it does with like the body, how like things, they research about like how, like what caused the bodies to like die and stuff like that. Like indentations on like it's what crime people do. So he decided he would actually drive out to the site and he would knock on the landowner's home and ask to dig at the site that they believed that the bodies were at. That the reporter told them, because the reporter actually removed the bodies from the original site and gave them a burial.
Oh, okay.
So they were not still there.
So like their family could come and
I don't know
if they would want to.
No, but pretty much
Jesus.
they were just like in a burial, just like in a line, pretty much like right next to each other. So it's like the reporter like dragged them into this giant pit and just like dug them, because they were like, well, they need some sort of burial at this point, so completely removed them from the area.
Right, you can't just leave them out in sleeping bags.
I mean, you could have, but then they probably, honestly, like, it was good that the reporter like buried them, because they could have, with like the harsh winters and stuff like that, we probably wouldn't have gotten the information that we did from them, because they were still like wearing clothes and like in their sleeping bags, but like by that time the clothes had like disintegrated and whatnot, but like all the slash marks and stuff were still there.
Holy shit.
So when he would he eventually would find the skeletons, and this it took days to discover them. So he had a short amount of time to actually do the dig, because the landowners are like, we don't want like all of you guys here for a super long amount of time. So they only had like a few weeks to do it. So they discovered the skeletons within a few days, because they had to dig pretty deep. And they started to really look at the bones to figure out what happened, because that's what anthropologists, what forensic analysis do. Yeah. And archaeologists do as well. So they were trying to figure out like who killed, like what actually happened. Now Starr's, his theory, he believed that Packer was the one who ate all of the men and is the one who killed the men. So he believed that with like the marks that the men had on them, that he believed that Packer is the one who killed all of the men and just lied about it. Yeah. Now another professor, Walter Birkby, would come on to refute Starr's theory and state that we cannot know who killed who. All we know is that the men were slaughtered. So there was no evidence that actually proved that Packer did it. In the report of what we found, all men were murdered by hatchet. So they all, like, in the indications on their skulls, you could see where they were hit. Oh, okay. By, like, the hatchet. And then also there were slash marks on their arms and hands. So they were honestly probably fighting, or, like, trying to like not get hit by the hatchet. Yeah. So they were like crossing defend themselves. Yeah. So they were crossing their arms pretty much. So the slashes were being done to their hands and arms. So we can show that they weren't really fighting back. So this gives to like, okay, well, were they sleeping at the time that they were murdered? Were they awake? We don't really know, but we do know that they were murdered by the hatchet from the indentations on their skulls and on their arms. Oh my God. Because in one of them, they're not really sure, but they believed, I think it might have been Belle, that there was a gunshot wound. Oh, wow. So they're not confident about it. They're like, it could be an animal imprint, or it could be a gunshot. It's really hard to tell because it's been so many years. But he also had like slash marks on his hands and stuff. So he was obviously killed. Belle was. So in the truth, we know that Packer probably killed Belle. Or maybe one of the other men did. Like, we don't know. We can only take Packer's words.
Yeah, exactly.
But of course, we're not going to believe that because he lied so many times and changed his story so many times. We don't really know. But I think from what it is, because he was not super thin and stuff, and he did admit to eating them, I think he did. Maybe Belle did go crazy. And then when he was like, dude, you need to stop, he probably killed Belle.
Yeah.
And Belle was like probably trying to fight him off, and he may or may not have shot him to get him done.
Right.
And then he resorted to eating the men.
Yeah, I can see that because he's already at that point.
Yeah, and maybe Swan did freeze, and that's where they started to eat the men. And then they decided, I just don't know why. I don't think that story about them like traveling along the road and eating the men, that did not happen.
No, there's no way.
It's like they stayed in that area either for a short amount of time and he just kept all of that meat together, or they were like dragging the body around or something. Like, we don't know.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of all over the place, and they only had a couple weeks to really like figure it out. And what they ended up doing was that like after the dig, they put like cement in it, or like they covered it to where they can no longer dig, to give them like a proper burial. And they actually put like a little plaque there. So like if you, I don't know if like you can actually go, but like if you go on the landowners like land, there's like a plaque there that has like all of the men that died. So that there's no more, they're pretty sure that like when they covered up, that all of the skeletons got completely crushed. So there's no way that they can do like another dig.
It's kind of one of those that you just kind of have to leave unsolved, because it's like, we have to take his word on it.
Yeah. And Boulder has a pretty high interest, is very intrigued with the Packer stories. So in their archaeology department and like anthropology department, they really use Packer's story with like all of like the pretty much to explain the story of it and what they think, and pretty much like go into depth of like what all the scars mean, to like really look into them. Like, this is why we think it's the hatchet. Like, they really took to Packer's story to very highly, and they taught it a lot. I don't know if they still do, because I don't go to Boulder. I did not go to Boulder.
Yeah.
So, but with this, he held a high importance for the school that, oh my God, they made him a part of their school.
Yeah.
So what they ended up doing was that in one of their dining halls, they named one of their restaurants after him.
Alfred?
Yeah, so it is called the Alfred Packer Grill and Restaurant.
What?
Yeah.
Why didn't they just call it Alfred?
No. So it is an actual restaurant that is in one of their dining halls, and it has like in one of their so they have like a column that's like in the middle, and it has a picture of him, like an old Western picture. Yeah.
Really?
And there was a sign that I saw on Google that said, "Welcome to Alfred Packer Grill. Have a friend for lunch."
I was going to say, what kind of food they got?
Yeah. And there is another restaurant that I saw that it's called El Cannibal.
Wow, that's so funny.
So, and he also has songs that are written about him and stuff. And
I thought he wrote songs.
No, but like songs that are like, "Oh, beware of Alfred Packer, like he might eat you," like just kind of like those types of songs. Yeah. And then actually the creators of South Park, so Matt Stone and Trey Parker, in like the early 90s, before they even made South Park, in one of their like short movies, they did the story of Alfred Packer.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and Dr. Erin, she made a comment, and even in like her lecture, she has like a bunch of like movies, songs, and stuff. Like she puts like a whole clip together of like all that are about him. It's really cool.
I didn't need to watch this.
Yeah, so this man lives on in Boulder, Colorado community, and it really shows of what a man is willing to do to survive.
Holy shit. I just want to know the real story.
Everybody does. I mean, that's one thing. Like, with true crime, there's always going to be, like, a mystery to it. And I hate the unsolved ones.
Oh, same.
But this one, like, even though it's kind of solved,
yeah,
it's not.
Right.
Because we don't really know what's happened. We can't really take his word for granted.
Well, we only heard one side.
Exactly.
There was no one else that could say anything. So.
And luckily, the forensics that they found on it, or just like everything that they found in the 80s, like the late 80s, when they did the dig, they could actually decipher part of what happened. So someone killed someone.
Yeah.
And it's pretty positive that Packer killed Bell, because in 2 of his stories, that's what he says, that he killed Bell. So he probably killed Bell, while either he killed all the other men, or Bill did go crazy because of hunger and killed all the other men. And then in self-defense, or if he was just like, dude, you're going crazy. I can't have you around because you're like unreliable, unfit. So he killed him, and now he's going to try and he ate him to survive, because he didn't know what else to do. And he was like, I just have these dead bodies. I don't want to catch like any animals coming around, so I got to get rid of the meat.
That's wild. Oh my God. Well,
so that is Alfred Packer.
That was a fun one. Like, not fun, but like, I was just like, what? The whole time.
Yeah, he's very
That's
interesting.
Wild.
And even my coworker was like, why is he so heavily influenced in Boulder? And I was like, because it's like the intriguingness of cannibalism.
Right.
Like, people love hearing about like the Donner Party, Jeffrey Dahmer. Like, when it involves cannibalism, people are like, how low do you have to get to this point?
It's hard to understand.
Yeah. And in this point, like, for him, it probably was survival, but like, he was a hot mess of a human being too.
He was.
He didn't know what he was
I think
doing.
he had like some mental issues that were just never figured out.
Yeah. I mean, he had epilepsy, which is like probably not anything to do. It has nothing to do with that, but like,
there could have been more.
Yeah.
They couldn't diagnose everything.
I mean, in that sense, who really knows?
Yeah.
So, where can you find us?
Sorry, I stretched and then I yawned. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Historia the Podcast. You can email us at historiathepodcast@gmail.com.
Whoa.
All right, we will catch y'all next week.
We'll do a little spooky one. I'm going to try and find some spooky ones to do.
Not in America.
Yeah, we're done with America.
Yeah, for sure.
For a while.
All right. See y'all later.
Bye.
Bye. No.